Robin Gurwitch joins us now. She's a clinical psychologist and a professor in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences at Duke University. Thank you very much for your time, Robin. The children and adults who die in school shootings dominate the headlines and consume the public's attention. Given that hundreds of thousands of children's lives have been profoundly changed by school shootings, would you say the true scope of this epidemic is not really fully realised?
I think when we consider the outcome of these shootings, what we're seeing is that the communities, the survivors, those involved are changed forever. And as your stories talked about, many have found a sense of purpose to do something to make a change. And it's that finding that sense of purpose, even when faced with obstacles, to continue to keep moving forward, that truly will help that healing process, to make meaning after something that is so tragic.
Tell us a little bit more about that. For the children who witness these shootings, injured or not, what can be some of the consequences and long-term effects of an event like this?
So when we think about the consequences, certainly children and adults that have been exposed to these events may have problems with intrusive thoughts. The images and the experience pops into their head even when they don't want it to. We've got 4th of July in the United States coming up. Those fireworks may set off body reactions of startle or worries and fears because they're so unpredictable, like shootings. You may find problems with attention and concentration, some behavior changes as well. The good news is that we know that one of the ways we can recover, the ways that we can move forward, that we can heal from the grief, is how do we stay connected to others. So making sure that anybody touched by these events is supported, that has caring adults around them to help move the process forward so they're not going to end up with problems that can last a lifetime.
Are there differences in the way teenagers versus young children process a trauma like this, especially in the way that perhaps most teenagers accept that adults can't always protect them, which is a reality many elementary school children may not really understand? How does this threaten the worldview of someone so young and vulnerable?
So I think for all of us, our worldview is that the world is pretty safe. I go to school and I come home. I go to work and I come home. But as both Buffalo and Uvalde and many other places have taught us, is that worldview can be turned upside down sometimes. And for teens, one of the things that we're seeing more and more often is that they are saying, wait a minute, I am going to do something about this. I am going to incorporate this into my life and make meaning out of it. So we see things like March for Our Lives. We see things like advocacy groups. For very young children, they may be working to even just think, how do they help somebody else feel better in their class? Because they're modeling ideas from the adults around them. In both instances, how we as adults talk about it, how we as adults manage it, how adults cope with it, will give signals to our very young, but also to our teens, and provide, I hope, with that sense of hope that we can do something and make a difference, even if it's in small steps, that those small steps continue to become pretty big steps down the road.
How often is gun safety or gun control brought up in the work that you do? How do these children reflect on America's gun culture? Should they have a say in legislation when it comes to gun control, do you think?
Well, I think that children's voices, particularly teen voices, are essential. They truly are going to be our next leaders. They have ideas of how to hold the world accountable. We think about gun violence. The other issue that is so important to teens right now, I think even more than adults, is climate change. I think they will make the biggest difference. So yes, I think it is that their voices be heard, not only in terms of what should be done to keep things safer, but also how do they want to incorporate these events into their lives, rather than adults saying this is what you have to do.
Clinical
Their voices
psychologist,
matter.
excuse me, Robin, thank you very much for your time. Robin Gurwitch, their clinical psychologist.